So chapter 31, Jacob finally frees himself from Laban. And he's on his way home to Canaan after being in Haran for 20 years. But if you remember, one of the reasons that Jacob fled from Canaan to Haran 20 years before was to escape from his brother Esau, who wanted to kill him. Now he's heading back to Canaan. And now he will face Esau. So Jacob comes out of one crisis with Laban, and he enters into another crisis with his brother Esau. And I don't need to tell you, but there are seasons in life when we go from one crisis to another crisis, from one trial to another trial, and they just seem to come like waves, one wave right after another, and we barely have time to recover from the previous trial before another trial comes. And maybe you're in a season like that right now in your life. Well, God will use this crisis in Jacob's life. And God will use this crisis in a very powerful way in Jacob's life. Jacob's life will be forever changed by this for the better. Verse 1 says, as Jacob went on his way, that is from Laban, that angels of God met him. And when Jacob saw them, he said, this is God's camp. And he called the name of that place Mahanaim. Mahanaim means two camps. There's two camps here. There's Jacob's camp and there's God's camp. This story, it reminds me of another story in the Bible in 2 Kings chapter 6. You don't have to turn there. But in 2 Kings chapter 6, the Syrian army invades Israel, and Elisha the prophet, Elisha's servant is freaked out because the Syrian army is in the land. And Elisha says to him in 2 Kings chapter 6, verse 16, he says, do not fear, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them. It's just Elisha and his servant standing there. There's more of us than there are of them. And then Elisha prayed and said, Lord, I pray, open his eyes that he may see. Then the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. Heaven's army was all around them. And Elisha's servant didn't know it because Elisha's servant couldn't see it. And here, the host of angels, there's a host of angels escorting Jacob and his family back home to the land of Canaan. And he didn't know it until the angels met him along the way. And he realizes now, wow, the host of heaven is leading me. In Psalm 34, verse 7, it says, the angel of the Lord encamps all around those who fear him and delivers them. That includes us, if you fear the Lord. The Lord's army encamps around us. The unseen heavenly host is around us, protecting us. So now verse 3, then Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau, his brother. Notice, in the land of Seir, in the country of Edom. Now this is an occasion when the geography is important to the story. Jacob was in Mahanaim, which is north of the Dead Sea. If you can picture a map of Israel, maybe you can take a quick look in the back of your Bible. Mahanaim is north of the Dead Sea, kind of in between the Sea of Galilee and the Dead Sea. That's where Jacob is, and he's about to cross over into the land of Canaan. We're told that Esau lived in the land of Seir in the country of Edom, which is southeast of the Dead Sea, probably at the bottom of your map in the back of your Bible. Jacob was not about to enter into Esau's land. He's not about to enter into Esau's land. In fact, he's pretty far north of Esau. Jacob was not going to cross paths with Esau as he was coming home to Canaan. And Esau didn't live in the land of Canaan anymore. He lives now in the land of Edom. So it's not like Jacob is going to bump into Esau at the Wegmans. You know, they're in two different countries. It would have been very easy for Jacob to avoid Esau. at least for a while. So when it says here in verse 3 that Jacob sent messengers to Esau in Edom, this is telling us that Jacob intentionally now seeks reconciliation with Esau. He goes out of his way, literally, to try to initiate some kind of reconciliation with his brother. Psalm 34, verse 14 says, "Seek peace and pursue it." And that's what Jacob is doing here. He's seeking peace. He's pursuing peace with his brother Esau. He's being intentional about it, going out of his way. And again, when it comes to reconciliation, we have to be intentional about it. And so he sends these messengers all the way down to Edom. And he commanded them, saying, look what he tells them to say. "Speak thus to my lord Esau, thus your servant Jacob says, I have dwelt with Laban and stayed there until now. I have oxen, donkeys, flocks, and male and female servants, and I have sent to tell my lord that I may find favor in your sight." Notice how Jacob esteems Esau. In his message to Esau, he calls Esau my lord Esau, and Jacob refers to himself as your servant Jacob. And remember the promise that God made to Rebekah when she was pregnant with Jacob and Esau. The Lord said the older will serve the younger. Esau will serve Jacob. And Jacob possessed the birthright. And yet Jacob addresses Esau with humility. He esteems Esau higher than himself. He esteems Esau in a way that Esau doesn't really deserve. He esteems him and addresses him in a way that Esau doesn't really deserve. And yet, this is what Jacob does. When it comes to reconciliation, we have to be intentional about it. Sometimes we've got to go seek it out and go out of our way to make it happen instead of just waiting for it to happen. And reconciliation requires humility. Just coming to it humbly. And of course, the greatest example of this is Jesus. Jesus humbled himself. Even though he's God, he humbled himself and he became a man and he died on the cross for us, to reconcile us to God.